Road Atlanta, one of the world's truly challenging road circuits, and she has never looked better. Mother Nature has brought her spring riot of color to North Georgia, and the color of the day is red. Hello, everyone. I'm Dave Despain, welcoming you to the first sprint race of the 1994 IMSA season. My telecast colleague today, supposed to be Derek Bell, 5-time Le Mans winner, 3-time Daytona winner, and guess what? Here it is, airtime, and I can't find him, but I have a hunch. Come with me through the crowd. You know the Tifosi, those rabid Italian fans who love Ferrari? Well, look, they have American cousin, and just as I expected, come with me. Here he is, savoring fond memories, totally ignoring his telecast responsibilities. Pardon me if I may. Mr. Bell, you have a real job today, but like everybody else, you're drawn here by the magic of the red Ferraris. This must be special for you.
Well, and obviously it is for me. It's very emotional for me in many ways because I started my professional career in Formula 2 Ferrari team, the Formula 1 team, and of course then my first ever sports car race was in the 512S Ferrari at Spa. So Ferrari holds a very special place in my memory.
Enough about you. Let's talk about what this car means to this series and to all these fans.
Well, I think I've said all along since this WST was muted that we needed Ferrari or a manufacturer like it. Ferrari is the greatest name in motor racing, and they're in the series, and I think it gives the series total credibility, and I think we're going to see a great advancements in the sort of manufacturers and cars that we have in the series. I hope manufacturers don't dominate it, but I think it'll give us more manufacturers' cars in there for the private teams to buy and race.
And how fast is the new car? 3 of the first 4 spots in qualifying, but after qualifying, a pretty substantial shakeup. We're going to get that story from the guys who will patrol pit road today. We're going to go first to Marty Reed, but before we do that, I'm going to padlock you to my belt. You and I have to go to the booth and do some work today. No more nostalgia for you. We're off to work. Let's go to Marty Reed.
Thanks, guys. Hello again, everybody. There are 3 things that have to be the same after qualifying for you to keep your starting position. That's tires, driver, and motor. Well, several driver changes have taken place, one of them being Giampiero Moretti. He's going to start the number 30 car because he's got a bruised set of ribs. He may not be able to go a full shift. That way they can still make the race on one stop. Also, driver changes for Henry Camperdam in the number 8 car, and then also Paul Bevan in the number 45. But there is one other car that is paying a very heavy price, and my partner Rick DeBrule has that story.
Very steep indeed, Marty. You know, everybody's talking about the Ferraris this weekend. There was one car that managed to split the Ferraris up. In fact, was going to be on the front row. That's this car with Jeremy Dale. Unfortunately, you talk about that rule. They have to qualify with the same tires. They have to race with the same tires. After he did his hot lap yesterday, he spun the car. As a result, he flat-spotted the tires. Because of that, they have had to change those tires, and as a result, he is now in the back of the pack. But think about this. He's the second fastest car starting from the back of the pack. He is going to be the charger to watch in the early going to see how well he can get back up through there. At one point, they were debating what to do. Did they want to change tires, or did they want to start up front? They went with the tires and did it that way. We're going to come back to Road Atlanta in the start of this race. Take a look at the field right after this.
Compare the new Suzuki RF to a lot of things. Another motorcycle isn't one of them.
Don't miss Suzuki's truly moving, dealing days.
For quick response. For smooth acceleration, turning loose. Turning loose. Move up to high-octane Exxon Supreme and turn the Tiger loose.
Or you can put in Schlegg locks, the Doberman of locks.
It's time to catch spring fever at Napa, the place more people rely on to keep their vehicles running and to help them save. Get Napa gas shocks and struts. Buy one and get the second one for half price. Spring is the perfect time for this handy 8-piece cooler combo, just $18.99. And easy-to-use no-touch tire care. Buy one for just $2.99 and get the second one free. So spring into your nearest Napa Auto Parts store today.
IMSA's Exxon Grand Prix of Atlanta is brought to you by Oldsmobile and by Quaker State, the intelligent oil for longer engine life. The excitement building to fever pitch here in the paddock area, out on the grid, and all around this twisting 2.5-mile course as the big crowd gathered here for IMSA's round 3 of 1994. Await the command that will kick things off, and for that we're going down to the front of the grid. J.S. Carter, the manager of the marketing department of Exxon USA, standing by with the words we're waiting to hear.
Drivers, start your engines.
And so for the first time in American racing, the first time in 21 years on these shores, Ferraris come to life on the grid. An American sports car race. They face a formidable challenge out there ahead. 11 turns, 2.5 miles. Here to talk us through it is Derek Bell.
At this point, going along the very short pit straight, we're pulling probably 150 miles an hour, just into 5th gear. In the Chevy-type cars, down to 4th for this turn 1. In the Ferraris, down to 3rd for this corner. Then we have a quick shoot uphill. We have a left and a right in 3rd gear in most cars. And then this very long left-hander, quite critical to keep the car to the left-hand side as we go down through turns 4 and 5. Down the hill, very tricky through here. Mustn't overdo it at this point. Get it nicely set up through the left-hander and then shoot it up over the brow. The tail always wants to come out of it there because you get a little bit of a bump as you go over the top. Then shots into 5th gear. This corner here is number 6. We're down into 3rd gear through there. A short blast in 3rd. Back off a bit more on the brakes. On the gas again. Very critical corner, turn 7. It leads onto this very long, fast back straight, which goes the whole length of the circuit. And we're probably putting 180 odd miles an hour up through here. Very useful if you can get a slipstream or a draft off somebody to pull some more revs and therefore get a bit of extra time. Then we sweep down this blind right-hander downhill, down through the dip, and then up the hill into turn 10 under the bridge. Very tricky corner, very severe as you come over the top. The tail always wants to go out, down through turn 11, and there we are onto the pit straight again.
All new pavement making a terrific battleground for today's battle. Mr. Carter's got a big smile on his face, and well, he should. He'll take a lap in the Ferrari that paces the field here today as the cars roll out for the warm-up lap leading to the fall of the green flag on this 1994 sprint race opener for IMSA. They've run the 2 big enduros down in Florida. And now let's take a the starting lineup look. The Suzuki motorcycle starting grid finds the Ferrari at the head of the field, Mauro Baldi, breaking the track record at nearly 125 miles per hour with the revisions in the grid. He will be flanked by Jay Cochran, the youngster in the 2nd Euro Motorsports Ferrari entry. And inside row 2, yet another Ferrari. This is the Agfa Film Scandia team entry. Ross Bentley, the Canadian, will be the starting driver there with Andy Evans waiting in the wings. And alongside the other Andy Wallace in the Chevy Spice, qualifying at 120 miles an hour. His teammate Morris Shirazi. Furman Velez starts in the 5th starting spot with co-driver Hugh Velez. That's the Chevy Spice. And then comes James Weaver on the outside of the row. Weaver, of course, will be teamed with Rob Dyson, and that is the Ferrari-powered machine. Jim Downing, veteran of IMSA, longtime innovator, jumps into the new class with his kudzu to be co-driven by Wayne Taylor. And then come the team of Scott Lagasse and Joe Hamilton. Check that, Scott Lagasse starting 8th with Joe Hamilton alongside. Lagasse in the Chevrolet Concealer. It's a Mazda Tiga for Hamilton, and that comprises row 5. In row 6 will be Neil Jameson. Co-driver is John Jones. That is the Buick Tiga. John Macaluso starting alongside with his co-driver Bobby Brown. Again, Buick power, the Tiga chassis, 105 miles per hour the speed. Jeremy Dale going to the back after the spin. Following qualifying, Bob Shader, his co-driver. Watch the Oldsmobile come through the traffic. That'll be a big part of the story. Brand new entry for Roger Mandeville and Henry Camperdam. Henry's going to take the starting responsibilities in the Mazda Hawk. And Jean-Pierre Moretti, who has a lot to do with Ferrari's being here, will co-drive with Delicio Salazar. Lee Miller starting the final car, the Buick Kudzu, with Stewart and Devin, the co-drivers. Lee, we understand, will get the starting lineup assignment. We'll go on board today with 3 different cars, and this is Jeremy Dale's machine. We'll get views from both front and back on this car. This is what it looks like from the front. Here's looking back over the tail, and that's where he hopes to have an awful lot of people. But at the fall of the green, there won't be much of anybody back there. He's going all the way to the back of the grid. Here is Moretti taking the warm-up lap. Some talk about his ribs. We'll get another opinion on why he has elected to start this race from the back. But that is Jean-Pierre Moretti, man who helped to make it possible for Ferrari to put this effort together and come here. A third car carrying on board will be Ross Bentley, the Canadian. There is Ross settling in for a full season of sports car racing. He, of course, has IndyCar aspirations as well. So we're prepared for full coverage. The green flag falls, and the roar of the V12s echoes across Road Atlanta. The Ferrari side by side into the first turn. Mauro Baldi with a great start. A good field of 15 cars in this new WSC division. This is an exciting moment, Derek, to see those cars back in America.
Yeah, it's a historic moment, of course, and it's going to be a very exciting, very interesting race, because as yet, nobody's ever seen a Ferrari, see how long it's going to do, what its endurance is like, and it is a 2-hour race after all. It's pretty warm out there, and I don't think they're really aware of just how different it is racing at Road Atlanta as opposed to actually testing in Fiorano in Italy.
We talk about the sprint racing concept, but in fact, we will see at least 2 pit stops for most of the teams, perhaps 3 for the Ferraris. We'll see driver changes, perhaps the best mix of endurance and sprint speed, but no doubt that they will be running flat out. Ross Bentley takes the Ferrari down the long backstretch for the first time. This is the 4th car in the lineup at the moment, as Bentley takes it to maximum RPM. It's 180 miles an hour, a real number down through there. That's
absolutely. Yeah, I mean, probably a little bit more. It's very interesting to note that the Auto Toy Store car of Andy Wallace is right there with the 2 leading Ferraris at this time. You can see him just in front of Ross Bentley at the moment. But Bentley caught up quite a bit at the end of the straight on Andy Wallace.
They hustle under the bridge, down the hill, and complete lap 1 with the pole sitter Mauro Baldi out front and Jay Cochran close behind. Wallace running in that 3rd spot is Bentley.
Yeah, Ross Bentley's done terribly well. He's right up there.
Jeremy Dale, too, on the move.
Jeremy Dale's really on the move. Yeah, doing a tremendous job, come up through. But, of course, he had the confidence of doing such a good lap in qualifying, so he knows he can do it. And these cars aren't as big as we've probably used to, and we used to seeing on this super circuit, so he's got room to get by. He's doing a very good job pulling his way through the field, and I think right now he's on the back of probably, it looks like to me just like James Weaver, but I may be wrong there. It's difficult to see from the stern.
You never see him from the back, because when you drive these things, you're always out front, eh?
How very kind of you, yeah. It is actually, he's behind James Weaver, and obviously he's going to give it a blast to go by James in the Spice Ferrari of Dyson Racing.
Certainly no surprise to see Dale running this strong. His qualifying effort had him outside row 1, but then he spun after he recorded the qualifying lap. Flat spotted the tires, had to start from the back in a 15-car field. For him to hustle to the front is no surprise whatsoever, and he's on the tail of Bentley as they hustle under the bridge down the hill. Roar of the V12s in Road Atlanta. Haven't heard it for years, and it is a welcome addition to this new division. World Sports Cars for IMSA. Open cockpit. The driver sitting right out there in front of God and everybody, including our television cameras. We'll get some great views of the kind of work that it takes to get a car around this racetrack.
Yes, the cars, they look lighter and smaller than we've obviously previously seen, but to drive any car to the limit is very, very difficult. And these guys are driving to the limit. You have to be very precise, and you'll see the better drivers in this group all driving very, very precisely, right on the edge of the curves, probably not running over the curves.
The leaders running in tandem here, perhaps 50 yards apart, the 2 Eurosport Ferraris. Run 1-2, no big surprise after their qualifying effort. In fact, there was some talk that these cars might be so good, Derek, that they could run away from the rest of the field. A, do you think that's realistic? And B, if it's realistic, do you think it's a problem?
Well, I mean, if I was the team manager, and obviously he's got 2 cars there, I'd say, look, lads, we've got to play this cool. We don't know how we're going to work and how it's going to work at Road Atlanta. So they're just playing it cool, and as long as they're in front, that's the most important thing. They can obviously stretch it out a bit if they have to.
Talked about the need for a high-profile manufacturer like Ferrari to come in and add credence to this WSC division. Ferrari have certainly done that. We'll get the answer to the second half of that question. Is it good or is it bad if they run away? But first, let's take a quick break and then come back with more from Road Atlanta.
Have you heard about our car that won the International Sedan Series 3 years in a row? What if I told you this car's remarkable engine suffered no breakdowns for the entire season in the Pro Series? None. Zippo. Same car that won races in all showroom stock categories last year. Only to those who've never had the pleasure of driving one. The Achiever by Oldsmobile. It's your money.
If you really want to travel for less, bum a ride to Suzuki's truly moving, dealing days. Where you can get a great new Suzuki motorcycle for 0 down or low down with low monthly payments. So get to your Suzuki dealer any way you can.
You know what I like about hockey? I like that everybody gets to carry a stick. I like the skating, the scoring, the passing. I like that you don't shake hands with your opponent until the very end of a playoff series. I like the Zamboni. I like the hitting. I love the Bruins. I like how they throw a dead octopus on the ice in Detroit during the playoffs. I like that when somebody does something bad, they go to the box. I like the fact that right now I'm going to break away with the greatest player of all time. I don't like the fact that he's not passing to me. Come on, Hog.
We're back at Road Atlanta for the debut of the new Ferrari SP automobile, and an impressive debut it has been based on the first few minutes of competition here in the USA. The car did not run the endurance race at Sebring as many had thought it might. Instead, the debut comes here at Road Atlanta. Mauro Baldi has taken the lead from the pole, pursued by Jay Cochran, and it is a team manager's dream to see them running along like that. It'll make great press photos if they can finish that way. How big is the question of reliability in this first race for the new car?
Well, I don't think anybody can really guarantee that the first time that any car is ever going to go out and win. However, they have got 4 Ferraris in the race, and there's a very good chance of one doing extremely well. They haven't seemed to have any problems whatsoever during practice and qualifying. And they've done a lot of testing at Fiorano, Italy, I know, and I believe at Mugello, so they know all about it. That's a bit tight through there. Anyway, if they play their cards right, I mean, it could easily be a 1-2. It just depends if they're holding anything in reserve. I don't know what lap times they're doing, but it's very interesting to see. Cochran's going to have a go in a minute. Jay is a really superb young racing driver. He's American, and it's great to see him up there. He deserves it. For some years now, he's been battling away with trying to get sponsorship on one thing and another. But here he is in a top-line car, and he's putting up a top performance against a world-class driver, and it's great to see. And I think we'll see him set the world alight in a moment. One must also bear in mind that Jay only sat in his car yesterday for the first time. His previous practice was in the wet, and then he got out yesterday in practice and qualifying. So he's done a remarkably good job.
Let's get more on this Ferrari effort from pit side. We'll go to Rick DeBrule.
One of the things that makes this especially impressive on the Euro Motorsport effort, when crew chief Peter Scott arrived at the shop office just about a week and a half ago, all they had was a car with no engine. They literally had nothing else. As a result, they've had to beg, borrow, and steal everything else, whether it was the timing stand that you see right there or the fueling rig. Everything from paper towels all the way down the line had to be brought in, begged, borrowed, and stolen, as the case may be, so they could get this team here today. And Peter Scott says it is the most phenomenal job he's ever seen a crew do in a week and a half.
Racing is all about organization, isn't it? Having your program in place, and the key is not what you do prior to the green flag, it's what you do between the green and the checker, and certainly they're doing very, very well for the moment. Let me take you back to the second half of my earlier question. IMSA has a new division. It's called World Sports Cars, open cockpit cars, such as you see here. cars that, in theory, provide opportunities for independent teams to go out and be competitive. The cost factor reduced from those terribly expensive GTP machines. There's the move for the lead. No, Cochran just harrying Morobaldi a bit, but not electing to make the move. Ferrari comes in, adds credibility to the new class, but the consequence, if they run away every week, we're back to where we were with the Toyotas. Eh? How big a problem is that?
Well, one hopes we don't get that sort of situation, but we have already got 4 Ferraris in the race, so I don't think we're going to get that problem at all.
The other cars thus far, pretty competitive. A moment ago, you saw the blue and white hawk of Roger Mandeville, the Mazda-powered machine, being overlapped by the Ferraris. The Ferrari's not the only cars making their debut here. The Hawk is also brand new, and it's evidence that there is indeed support for the new division. This is the 9th place race that's drawn our attention for the moment. That is Scott Lagasse, the Chevy-powered machine, and he's being chased by Jim Downing.
Yes, the Consigliere in front. It's Consigliere, the yellow car. It's their second race. They raced at Sebring, and they're doing a very good job. And, of course, Jim Downing is actually driving his car behind, with Wayne Taylor waiting to take over halfway through the race.
That is the Kudzu automobile, named for a rather prominent southern bit of undergrowth here. Lagasse currently holding on to 9th spot, and that would make Downing 10th. Downing was one of the first guys to jump into the Camel Lights division when it was new. He's been a long-time supporter of the International Motorsports Association and a believer in this new world sports car division. He has built the Kudzu at his shop, actually located just a few miles from Road Atlanta, up in the north suburbs of Atlanta. Back up front with the leaders. Cochran ran up there and let Baldy know he was around, and is now backed off to a bit more conservative distance as they prepare to put another lap on. I missed it. I'm not sure who that was.
If either of these guys were to make a mistake and have the other one off, it wouldn't be the most popular move, and I think he would get the headlines in the Italian newspaper this week. So they're both being very, 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 very careful about the whole thing, I'm sure.
And how much of a lead have they opened? As the Ferraris run in tandem, not very much of a lead at all. In fact, the third-place automobile, the other Ferrari, charging along and closing. Andy Wallace is in hot pursuit of the Euro Motorsports teams. A yellow Ferrari. It's almost...
No, I'm afraid it isn't, actually. There is a yellow Ferrari Spice in there. Andy Wallace is in the Auto Toy Store Chevy Spice, but don't worry, we know you're tired. And Andy's doing one tremendous job. I drove with him at Sebring. He's really a world-class driver. And one must forget that old Spice, that yellow one in front, is 8 years old.
That's a good point. It is the oldest chassis in the field. It was number 001. Built back in 1987, and thank you for making my excuse for me. It has indeed been a long weekend of motorsports here on ESPN. Kicked it off last night with Saturday Night Thunder. Billy Boat won the midget race, and a terrific midget race it was. Out on the west coast of Ventura, we caught the red eye and had to miss the Formula One race this morning, which you perhaps saw Michael Schumacher win here on ESPN. As we taped the action here at Road Atlanta for tape-delayed coverage, the Winston Cup cars are having at it at North Wilkes. And we'll wrap up the racing weekend with all the action here at Road Atlanta. Stick with us.
This is going to be a blast.
Can't wait. Go for it.
Wow, look at all these kids.
Hey, come on.
Ram Southern Nationals, April 21st through 24th, Atlanta Dragway, Commerce, Georgia. Tickets available at Ticketmaster Southeast.
She had a great time.
If you're a luxury car dealer, you might want to turn away, because this is the car that's been giving you nightmares, the Hennessy Jaguar XJ6. Now, we at Hennessy apologize if our XJ6 Dream Lease is causing other dealers to lose some Z's. That's Z as in zero, zip, zilch. Because Hennessy's Dream Lease has zero capital cost reduction, and it's only $599 a month for 24 months. Hennessy Jaguar's XJ6 Dream Lease. Their nightmare is your dream come true.
Tonight, Orioles versus the Rangers.
We're back at the Grand Prix of Atlanta, Road Atlanta, the 2.5-mile road circuit just north of the capital of the South, if you will. The opportunity today to see the Ferraris in action, and a single word escaping the lips of Derek Bell as he's heard them howling by in the silence of the commercial, that word, wonderful. But for the moment, the guy on the move is Andy Wallace. He has put away Ross Bentley pretty effectively, and perhaps is now pulling Bentley along as Wallace. The Chevrolet Spice is up to the challenge of the Ferraris. Had, in fact, closed up a little bit in terms of the interval of the leader. Here you see Wallace from behind. That's Ross Bentley's view. How's the Ferrari handling based on the steering wheel work there?
Well, pretty neutrally. And the guys, in fact, say the car handles wonderfully well. But what I think is interesting right now is how he only catches up on maximum revs on the Chevy Spice. You notice how he's right up there, but of course it's different to go around Andy. It's very different. Oh, he's going by. Andy's going to let him over. Let's hope he lets him through. We can't see. Yes, he let him through. But, of course, you saw the top-end power of that Ferrari. It was really quite a move.
Terrific pass. That's the place to do it here. Unleash the horsepower. The only problem with that pass is going down into that dip. Quite a breath taker at $180 because you really whack the bottom of that thing. You want to make sure that car is exactly on line, because then if on your way up the hill, it's heavy braking to get to the bridge. So for the moment, Wallace's charge is thwarted. He falls back to 4th spot. You got to love Andy Wallace. I always think of your friend and our occasional colleague, David Hobbs, who has run about a bazillion of the long-distance endurance races and seems to have a terrible time winning them, unlike you who win them all the time. But Andy Wallace is the guy who really wins those things. He's won Le Mans, he's won Daytona, he's won Sebring, and now here today, he's trying to derail the debut of the Ferraris here at Road Atlanta. This is 5th, 6th, and 7th, and that's a pretty good scrap. That's led for the moment by Jeremy Dale.
Followed by James Weaver lying there in the Spice Ferrari. And then right behind that, we have let me think what it is.
We'll get another look.
The black car, yeah. Oh, Weaver's
car.
just dropped back, you'll notice. Weaver just pulled over very much behind them. He's dropped out of it for the moment.
Rather dramatically.
Yeah.
I think that perhaps the car has broken. Quickly, for the benefit of those who may not be among the Tifosi, the difference between the power plants in the Ferrari Spice and the factory entered machines here, the 333s?
Well, one, of course, the factory cars, if you like to say, the 333P is the V12, and of course the engine in a 4.5 litre, and the engine that we have in the Spice Ferrari, of course, is only a 3.5 litre, and it's a V8, so it's quite a difference.
And here is the move and the pass as Velez makes the good move going into turn 1. That's another great passing opportunity, but again, takes a fair bit of courage to hustle it through there. So Jeremy Dale's charge has stopped. He has fallen back to 6th. It looked like he was cutting the kinds of laps that would get him back into the thick of it pretty quickly here. He having opted to go to the back after flat spotting the tires qualifying. So Dale has lowered the tempo for a moment, and Velez is definitely on the charge. Here's a guy who will drive flat out any kind of race car anytime. Furman is very fast.
Yes, he's very, very underrated in my opinion. I think he's an outstandingly good driver. He's a wee lad, but he's very, very tenacious. He goes in everything he possibly can. Very quiet, slides around very quietly and socially, but my goodness, he's a wonderful car driver.
Got just a glimpse of that number 16 car, indeed stopped on the backstretch. James Weaver, driving the Dyson entry, the Rain-X Ferrari Dyson, has indeed pulled over, and that perhaps indicates a terminal situation. We can find out more about that, I believe, as we go to pit road and Rick DeBrule.
Well, that's right down here in the pit, the Dyson pit. They say that the problem is, first off, they're having a hard time with radio reception. They're not totally sure, but they believe the oil temperatures went up. As a result, he's simply going to have to park it. He was going to try and pull it in, but at this point, today is going to go too far.
It was a 15-car field that took the green here today, and for the new formula, this marks a success. Daytona, the World Sports Cars, well, they didn't have a great debut. They were totally outclassed down there in their first appearance, but then they came back so impressively at Sebring. They were in the hunt all day. The cars ran great. Fans liked being able to see the drivers sitting out there. It was a huge leap forward for the new division. There was still question whether they would be in position to run the WSC machines here as their own standalone class at Road Atlanta. The fact that they are able to do that is in part thanks to Ferrari, but it also indicates that IMSA is serious about this new division. They're going to go forward with it. And as you see that number 44 Ferrari, that number 44 machine of Furman Velez, the Chevrolet Spice, trucking through the traffic. We'll go back to the pits and find out more about this number 2 car and why it may have slowed down a bit. Marty Reed.
Well, one of the things that we don't know about yet, guys, is fuel consumption. That seems to be the big question mark. Obviously, the Ferraris in their first race, they're hoping, talking to one of the teams, saying that maybe we can get 28 laps. 26 is more likely. And then you go down to somebody like the Buick or the Oldsmobile camp, Bricks Racing, they're thinking they can make 30 laps. So maybe what they lose in horsepower, they make up in fuel economy.
And that, of course, is a key issue because pit stops in a 2-hour race consume a fair amount of time. Is there any doubt about the Ferrari strategy? No, I don't think so. They're going to have to make 3 pit stops, we understand. And so, as the leader, Mauro Baldi, continues to truck, we'll take a quick break as we're back with more from Atlanta.
I love steak, especially a thick, juicy T-bone. A1 all over the top. Perfect. Wonderful. I'm in the mood for something spicy. Tongue-tingling spicy. Spice just... It gets you here, and it gets you right here. I want something with gumption. Something with a peppery kick that's spicy. A1 Bold. Yeah, that's what I'm in the mood for.
Original A1 and new A1 Bold. They're how steak is done.
Every time the driving conditions change, the threats to your car's engine change. Threats that can shorten its life. Corrosion, oxidation, acids. That's why today's Quaker State has engineered intelligent oil. Oil that actually senses changes in the driving environment and adapts its own molecular structure instantly. So, if the temperature changes, so does Quaker State. If the traffic congestion changes, so does Quaker State. If the terrain or altitude changes, so does Quaker State. Quaker State virtually thinks for itself to protect your engine, whatever the conditions, so your engine lasts longer. Quaker State. The intelligent oil for longer engine life.
Grand Prix of Atlanta coming your way from Road Atlanta on ESPN. After our racing triple header wraps up, it's off to the old ball yard for the Orioles versus the Rangers tonight, 8 o'clock Eastern time, 5 on the West Coast. Actually, it's the ballpark, as it's known in Arlington, Texas. So we invite you to tune in for the stick and ball stuff this evening. Meanwhile, here in Road Atlanta, the battle up front is all about Ferrari. And the battle, or is it a formation ride? I would say the way Jay Cochran went up there and let Mauro Baldi know he was there before this is done, we'll forget all about team orders and have a real race on our hands here. Meanwhile, the Ferrari of Gianpiero Moretti has moved up to 8th spot, so he's having a good day of it thus far. They're running a comfortable pace here, and the challenge that appeared to be coming, perhaps, from Andy Wallace has yet to materialize. Pit stops will be coming up soon. Again, no question, the Ferraris will have to make 3. Is that right, Gary?
Well, that's what I was told before the start of the race, but I don't think they're trying to confuse me. But it wouldn't surprise me. Remember, we only run 70 litres in a tank full, so, of course, we're going to have much briefer runs in stints of fuel.
There's number 2, the car that qualified second, the Oldsmobile Spice of Jeremy Dale, but after charging up to as high as 4th, has now slipped back and is off the pace, and appears to be struggling a little bit here. Jeremy, with trouble, has lost a spot to Gianpiero Moretti. And the rest of that Moretti story is, yeah, he has bruised ribs, but how much of it was just the desire to take that first green flag?
Oh, without it, there's Gianpiero, a bit of opposite lock there. As you can see, he's using his gear shift, just flicking through a sequential gearbox. The car is really moving. You can see there's a lot of speed there. Now he goes for 5th gear. They've all had to learn how to use these sequential gearboxes in this race too, don't forget. But I think his ribs are obviously are completely in the back of his mind right now, and he's just driving as best as he can and having a really wonderful race.
Tell me more about the role this fascinating Italian gentleman played in the development of this car.
Well, Gianpiero said to me at Daytona 1 whole year ago, he said, Derek, next year we race Ferrari, okay? And I couldn't believe it. And he said, yes, and he talked with Dr. Bertoni, president of Ferrari North America, and Piero Lardi Ferrari, who's the president of the United States, in Italy. And they got together and decided this was the way to go.
Terrific boost for the world sports car formula when Ferrari said that they would come on board, and IMSA, of course, has a history of using the rules as need be to maintain maintain equivalency among the manufacturers. They have, in fact, over time, a terrific record of manufacturer involvement. The new formula has attracted the Ferraris, and perhaps others will follow, seeing the success of the division, which everyone hopes will come. Again, certainly, I think the opportunity to see such an appealing car and to be able to see the driver sitting out there driving the car, I think it bodes well for the future. Perhaps we could get more here on this problem with the 2 car. They have fallen from the pace, and the Oldsmobile challenge for the moment is thwarted. Perhaps the pit stop will provide the opportunity to get that car back up to speed. Marty Reed, do you have more on what's happening there?
Sure do, Dave. The Oldsmobile Spice has no grip. The tires are going away. They are on the Goodyear 430 combination. And I asked the team if they were going to switch and go softer, maybe as little as the 160. He said, no, the fuel economy is what we're going for. It's the one thing that we think can equalize, and they're going to stay on the stiffer compound. Eric, do you think that's the right move?
Yeah, I don't honestly know. I would have thought I'd have come to give the tires to work, because if he has to hurry later on through a series of yellow flags or something, he's not going to be able to hurry at all, because he's doing his best now. I'd have come in and had a car with grip and risked having to come in for fuel, because everybody else is going to have to come in for fuel, and he's dropping back a long way.
And it's terribly frustrating to be the driver stuck in that situation when the car won't hook up. There's only so much you can do, and you know, obviously he'd rather be out there racing it up. The number 11 car has been in for its pit stop. Joe Hamilton climbed out. Stan Kleva climbed in. And looky here, the new leader of the race hustles off into turn number 1. Jay Cochran has taken over the top spot as the pit stop strategies begin to unfold. Cochran assuming the lead in the Eurosport Ferrari from his teammate Mauro Baldi. Actually, not teammate, but the driver of the other team car. They are each driving solo today. And the weather is going to be a factor there. That's going to be a long pull for 2 hours now that the sun has come out and it's hot here.
Yes, it certainly is, but they are, I think, ideal conditions. It's lovely to have the sun. It's great to have that cool air coming in, and obviously the guys can ventilate them very well. And there's Baldi behind now. Makes you wonder what happened to Baldi, because he didn't have time, I didn't think, to come in for fuel, so he must have done something that we didn't see on the cameras.
Baldi has backed it off a bit, so now we ride with the third-place car as they try to reel in the Ferraris and awaiting those pit stops. Andy Wallace seeing an opportunity here, perhaps. Baldi backed off the pace a bit.
Yes, it seemed to me. We don't know what happened, and there haven't been any reports coming in of what happened, but I guess it sort of fell us shortly. But he certainly slipped back a couple of 100 yards there on Jay Cochran, and it wasn't time to go and refuel, that's for sure.
Cochran off into turn 1. We've got the first 3 cars stacked inside the length of the front straightaway. Euro Motorsport Racing, a pretty hot name here as they run 1-2 at Road Atlanta.
This life is one big automobile. 30 years under the hood. At Nationwide, I always get a deal. 30 years under the hood.
For 30 years, Nationwide has been with you under the hood, and we're celebrating by rolling back prices to 1964. Like pylon wiper blades or refill pack, only 99 cents each. And bullet nose glass pack muffler, only $7.99. Get to Nationwide today for prices that'll take you back to yesterday.
30 years under the hood.
For me, it's peace of mind.
It's a Moncrief Heating and Air full service agreement.
Twice a year, they come and make sure my central system is ready for the next season.
Last summer, when the bearing went out on my fan motor, they were out the same day.
And the parts and labor were free. You can't beat it.
I'd never be without my Moncrief service agreement.
Quick response, skilled technicians, and energy-wise gas heating and cooling equipment by Train. Top rated for quality and high efficiency. That's Moncrief.
Train and Moncrief.
Why settle for less?
Like this. I bring it up, and I'm losing everyone, except Robin Roberts. I should pass it to a big man, but they always get it, so I take it in. It's me against the Giants, and I jam it over them. And afterwards, I flash the little people our #1 hand signal while they play my song. Yeah, that's my Sports Center highlight.
We're back at Road Atlanta. The leader has come to pit road. Jay Cochran in for service. Let's go to Rick DeBrule.
We got to remember, not only is this the first time that Jay Cochran's been in this car in competitive situation, it's the first time this team has been together in this competitive situation. A lot of these guys, former Nissan guys, former NPTI guys, who just had to happen the weekend off, they've been able to come here, help this project out. This morning, they were practicing their pit stops, trying to see just how fast they can do them. But this is the first time they've had to do it in the anger of a race. They seem to have done it well, though. He gets out, and there's no penalties assessed. These guys did it right.
Yeah, I didn't see much to complain about there, Derek. They did that very well. Here's the 44 car coming to the pits. Let's go to Marty Reed.
Fermin Velez is going to stay behind the wheel. They are putting in fuel. They'll leave the tires as is. And this is the frustrating moment. The fuel rate is so slow. Fermin's ready to go. Here he is. He's out.
Yeah, out tusk.
There's a V8 for you, not a V12.
No substitute for torque. Exactly. Comes down to what you want in the crunch. Take the foot-pounds. Fermin is up the hill and back into the fray, and so Cochran has pitted. Mauro Baldi will reassume the lead, and just prior to the pit stop, we had a report that Mauro Baldi had just slowed down a little bit. Nothing wrong. Yeah. I liked your reaction to that. Don't believe them.
Don't believe them.
Don't believe anything they tell you.
There was something wrong for a second or two there. He wouldn't give up for anything. And there's no reason to conserve fuel at that stage of the game because they can have as much fuel as they want to.
Baldi is a terrific race car driver, and it was no surprise that he was the fast qualifier here, fast qualifier by an impressive lot. Well, we spoke too soon. We have a report from the IMSA officials that they had one too many people over the wall on that pit stop for Jay Cochran. So on the next pit stop, he will be assessed a 10-second penalty. So,
that seems very
enthusiasm.
Yeah,
too many people.
That seems very tough on them, I think. But I mean, rules are rules, and that's what they're there for. So they'll no doubt make the most of it.
For all the things Ferrari have done well through their history, they do have occasional problems with pit stops, don't they? Andy Wallace is on pit road. Again, scheduled stop, Rick DeBrule.
Down here, they've had a problem. They were trying to engage the rear wheel, but he engaged the gear. As a result, it was causing problems getting the rear wheel on, so it made for a very long stop, but he's now back out.
Wallace returns to the hunt in the Chevrolet-powered Spice automobile, the auto toy store entry, and you gotta love a place that is willing to advertise itself as the auto toy store, because these are rather expensive toys, albeit not $600,000-$700,000 like the GTP cars.
No, he sells 600 to 800 cars a year. He also sells planes, and he also sells boats. He's a great character, Maurice Shirazi, and it's wonderful to see the likes of him in the World Sports Car Championship. And this car is 8 years old. It's an old chassis 01 Spice, and they've actually cut the top off, and for a very small amount of money made it into a competitive racing car. I think it's wonderful. One mustn't forget, of course, here's Baldi in the pits. No, it's Moretti in the pits, I do beg your pardon.
Gampero Moretti, and we'll see if he climbs out. He bruised a rib. Can you tell me more about how that happened?
Yes, he bruised it because he has a seat, and on the left side of the seat he has a lip that comes around to hold him from falling across the car, and it actually bruised him through practice.
Let's go to Rick DeBrule.
That's right, they are making the driver change, and this is one thing to point out. Two of the Ferraris, Jay Cochran and Mauro Baldi, aren't doing driver change. This car is. As a result, it just makes it a little more complicated. Theoretically, it shouldn't take more time. Now, they're apparently having a problem. Right now, the rear wheels are engaged. They're spinning around, and they can't. As a result, they can't actually change the tire. Right now, because they're in the middle of making that driver change, it complicates everything. So while Eliseo Salazar gets in the car, Moretti tries to hook him up. They finally get that wheel stopped, and the guys in the back can make the change. But that's the kind of thing that complicates a driver change. It complicates a pit stop when you have that problem. Now they've got it set, and they're back out.
Definitely not pretty.
No, but of course, that's the point with the sequential gearbox, because it's difficult to tell when it's in neutral, because you just don't wave it from side to side and say that's neutral.
For the benefit of those who may not follow, sequential gearbox, is it just like shifting a motorcycle?
Yes, absolutely. You just keep tapping the lever backwards, first, second, third, fourth, fifth, and when you knock it down the other way. We, in fact, did this development some years ago with the Porsche 962 with the double clutch transmission, but basically it's the same thing. Wonderful to have, because you can actually keep your left foot on the foot support the whole time and don't have to worry about balancing your feet on the pedals. It gives you much more strength, stability, and endurance.
Click the button and make the shift. Look at this. They have come out of the pits together, and we have a terrific battle for the lead once again. Baldy and Cochran right back at it, both scheduled to go the full 2 hours today. And this is going to be the picture we will all remember, I think, from Road Atlanta. Baldy has come back out front with about a 2-car lead over Jay Cochran. Let's go back to the pits. There's more activity there. Marty Reed.
Well, the number 2, Jeremy Dale, Oldsmobile Spice, is in the pits. They are making a complete change. Now, this is interesting because they are now stopping and they are changing tires again with going back to the 430s. But here comes the other Ferrari. So Andy Evans' team car coming in here. Ross Bentley behind the wheel. They made their goal. They are pitting on the same lap as the Oldsmobile. So it's going to be interesting to see from here on out as the Oldsmobile is going back out as Jeremy Dale is behind the wheel.
So a bit more legs here for this version of the Ferrari. Ross Bentley making it to the window they were hoping for, although I don't see, will that help them? Will that get them to the point where they can make it with 2? I don't know.
No, there's something like 40 lap difference, or something like that. It's not going to make a 40 litres difference. It's not going to make any help. But you must remember, of course, that Cochran has also got a 10-second penalty here. So he is, in fact, 10 seconds behind Baldy at this point, so Baldy can be quite happy to leave him there.
And safe to assume, I think, that Cochran will try to get as much of that back as possible. We climb back on board with Ross Bentley as he returns to the action, having gone a bit further into the race before making his fuel stop. Working hard up to that long left-hander, and now this fascinating, tricky complex known as the Essex. Can't fully appreciate the downhill, uphill there. This corner leading out onto that straightaway. You got to hit that one just right. Absolutely right. Bentley at speed. Road Atlanta. It is the IMSA Grand Prix of Road Atlanta. The WSC cars having at it on a sunny Sunday afternoon. We'll be right back.
Polish a whole car in about half the time with new Turtle Wax Instant Foam and Shine, the first foaming car polish. It's so much easier. With ordinary polish, you have to wipe, wait, and rub. With new Instant Foam and Shine, you just foam and shine. A mirror-like shine with long-lasting Turtle Wax protection. It's never been easier or faster. So why wait? Polish your car in about half the time with new Turtle Wax Instant Foam and Shine.
Electric Start Suzuki Dual Sport 650, 350, 250, and brand new 125. No other line has a wider range.
Don't miss Suzuki's truly moving, dealing days.
Monroe Sensatrack, road sensing shocks and struts. Designed to give you extra control during a swerve. Extra control over rough roads. Monroe Sensatrack gives you both extra control and ride comfort automatically. Monroe Sensatrack, like 2 shocks in 1. Call 1-800-STRUT now for a Monroe Sensatrack dealer near you.
Sports Center now at new times, 6:30 and 11 p.m. weekdays.
This Speed World Track Fact is brought to you by Quaker State, the intelligent oil for longer engine life.
One thing that's unusual about the new Ferrari, besides, of course, the prancing horse on the steering wheel, is this thing. For the first time, Ferrari is successfully using a sequential gearbox in sports car racing. Now, you motorcycle people are familiar to this, but it's new to sports car racing. When a driver wants to change gears, he simply pulls back. Each time he pulls, he moves a gear. For example, first gear, second gear, third gear, fourth gear, fifth gear. When he wants to downshift, he just pushes forward once. Fifth, fourth, third. And each time he goes down, it goes through the range. Now, the only problem with this, because it isn't a traditional H pattern, a lot of the drivers have a hard time telling what gear they're in. As a result, the guys here on the Momo team have come up with this thing. It's an LED readout. By looking at the lights, they can tell what gear they're in. Now, for you and I, it might be called an idiot light, but here in IMSA racing, we'll call it a driver aid.
All right, I'll buy that, Rick. And as we've already seen, the difficulty in finding neutral was very much an issue with that new gearbox. box. So we're watching the number 30 car of Alessio Salazar and number 63 Wayne Taylor and Jim Downing pit. Let's go to Rick DeBrule.
This is where it gets interesting. This team has managed to stretch their fuel mileage out just a little more. You got to remember they're driving a Mazda, very different than the other engines. They've been able to stay out a little bit longer. They're making the driver change. We talked about how it complicates things, but so far they're doing it fairly simply. Send him out on his way. It'll be interesting to see how long they can go.
Could be Wayne Taylor climbing in for Jim Downing, who was the starting driver. Taylor from Altamont Springs, Florida, longtime IMSA campaigner. To turn one and returns to the fray with the distinctive whine of that Mazda power plant. Moretti and Salazar having a bit of a checkered day thus far. Salazar has spun the car, we're told, and we're going to get a look at it from on board. Watch the wheel, Derek.
Wow, he lost it almost under braking, didn't he? He lost it before he even got into the corner. Obviously, he's just come out of the pit, so he's probably on cold tires and just got away from him. We're caught up in the heat of the moment. Oh, and he's got to start it up.
Killed the motor, yeah. But it's not exactly a hard braking area there, is it? Because you're really not carrying that much
Absolutely
speed.
No, but of course, when you've got cold tires and you just hit those brakes a bit sharpish, one wheel locks up, picks up, round she goes.
Meanwhile, up front, the other two Ferraris continuing to truck pretty impressively as Baldy leads Cochran. The gap on the racetrack, perhaps 3-4 car lengths, but Cochran due for a 10-second penalty when he comes to the pits the next time for having too many men over the wall on the previous stop. And if I were Cochran, I think I'd be trying to get around Morrow and get my 10 seconds on the racetrack and then give it back up. But Morrow's probably not of the same mind.
No, he certainly doesn't want it. It's a bit of a morale beater on if you get overtaken by your teammate, if it's only to get 10 seconds back. Because obviously Baldy wants to stay out in front just as long as he can. For whatever reason, he wants to be in front.
Your impressions of Morrow Baldy. Let's go on board here with number 3 car. This is Ross Bentley out of Canada, who aspires to IndyCar racing, put together the deal to be able to go IMSA sports car racing for 1994 and said, hey, this works for me. He was particularly excited about the opportunity to do the 12 hours of Sebring, and he must have done about 9 hours of it himself. He put in a lot of time in the cockpit. And interestingly enough, cars with the driver sitting right out in the open. What we saw at Sebring was a problem with the cockpit actually being very hot. You, I believe, had that personal experience.
Yes, we all did, and we also suffered from this unleaded fuel of all the cars are running. You know, we don't run catalytic converters, but we're running unleaded fuel. And, of course, the actual fumes made us vomit. I mean, several drivers had to be carted off. I was ill, James Weaver was ill, I know Ross Bentley was ill. All the drivers that did lots of hours in the car eventually succumbed to the fumes of what I think was the unleaded fuel.
One of the aerodynamic issues that they'll be working out. We're going to go trackside to Marty Reed. Marty?
Standing here with Andy Evans, who's, I could say, a very happy camper right now. The 3 lead Ferraris, you got the best fuel economy.
Well, Ross and I talked about with Dave Jacobs, our crew chief, a bit short shifting and see if we could make it 32, 33 laps. If we can do that a second time around, maybe only 2 stops instead of 3.
Now, the one drawback is you have no radio communication with your driver.
That's right, but we get our pit board out there, and Ross, he's an experienced driver. He'll handle it.
Yeah, but at this rate, you've got to be a speed reader, guys.
Well, indeed, they are hustling around this place. Top speed in excess, perhaps, of 180 miles an hour down this long back straightaway, the exit of turn 7, and then a little bit of a bend to the left. Now, watch the fact that you just really don't see where you're going as you come down through this right-hander. And at that kind of speed, you really better know your reference point.
Right here is what you're talking about. Well, we don't see it now, but that was the point that we meant. It's absolutely blind, and you're taking it flat out.
The Ferraris run up front, the prancing horse. Prancing at full speed here today in its IMSA debut. A terrific turnout over at the Ferrari enclave throughout the weekend, and they've done it right. They've had the press party, they've had the car on display, and given everybody a good opportunity to see it. Ultimately, though, it comes down to what you do on the racetrack, and what they have done on the racetrack thus far is to dominate this competition in impressive fashion, with Baldy, the pole sitter, running out front, and Cochran in the team car in hot pursuit.
And this is Wayne Taylor, who's obviously taken over. He's doing a very good job, as always. Wayne's a real strong campaigner, a super young driver. And once he gets used to a car, he does an excellent job. And he's just taking Jim Downing. And they did a very good job at the Sebring 12 hours. Here they are doing a great job today. And with a see how Wayne gets on in amongst all this traffic.
The cars continuing to circulate here, and now is the time where you grind it out. Keep cutting those fast laps. Aim for that second pit stop in the window, and then get her home. Baldy leads. We'll be right back.
Every time the driving conditions change, the threats to your car's engine change. Threats that can shorten its life. Corrosion, oxidation, acids. That's why today's Quaker State has engineered intelligent oil. Oil that actually senses changes in the driving environment and adapts its own molecular structure instantly. So, if the temperature changes, so does Quaker State. If the traffic congestion changes, so does Quaker State. If the terrain or altitude changes, so does Quaker State. Quaker State virtually thinks for itself to protect your engine, whatever the conditions, so your engine lasts longer. Quaker State. The intelligent oil for longer engine life.
For quick response. For smooth acceleration, turning loose. For a cleaner engine, turning loose. Move up to high-octane Exxon Supreme and turn the Tiger loose.
I'm telling you, it was huge.
Right.
No, really, it was gigantic, mammoth, colossal.
I suppose it got away.
No, I've got a picture. What is that? The biggest thing in fishing you'll ever see.
Choose from our wide selection of Penn fishing rods and reels at the Sports Authority. No one helps you tackle the world of fishing like Penn, the great American tackle company. If you're serious about fishing, check out the innovation and reliability of Berkeley Select rods, reels, fishing lines, and power baits. Berkeley Select, it's serious fishing gear. Plano's tradition of quality is evident in their new guide series, the ultimate tackle box for the angler. And it's just one of the many Plano tackle boxes you'll find at the Sports Authority. Shimano rods and reels are built for serious anglers who demand top performance from their equipment. Choose Shimano, the ultimate fishing tackle for the ultimate fishing experience. The Sports Authority. You've never seen anything quite like it.
We're back at Road Atlanta, the Grand Prix of Atlanta, the IMSA World Sports Cars. If you like hockey, you got to love ESPN this time of year. Stanley Cup playoffs for 1994. Hot and heavy. And coming up on Monday night, we'll have the New York Islanders versus the Rangers. That's at 7:30 Eastern Time. Tuesday, 7:30, it's the Caps at Pittsburgh. So be sure and check out all of the action. Up front, the Ferraris continuing to run in tandem. Still Baldy ahead of Jay Cochran. Mauro Baldi has set the pace much of the way here. Slowed at one point prior to the first pit stop. His teammate Cochran has picked up a 10-second penalty since then. Coming to the pits for what has now been an extended pit stop is the number 8 car of Henry Camperton and Roger Mandeville. Marty Reed, what's going on?
Well, you can take a look as they are working on reassembling the exhaust. It's just literally sheared some of the pins. Now, remember, on a Mazda, you're talking over 2,000 degrees, so this is a very touchy job for these guys. It's going to be a very lengthy stop for Henry Camperdown and Roger Mandeville.
Well, let's stay with this for just a moment, Derek Bell. We've talked a lot about the Ferrari here because everybody's heard of the Ferrari. We should make the point that this is also the debut car for the Hawk, and nobody's heard of the Hawk. So what's a Hawk, and what's its future?
Well, a Hawk is a car built by Roger Mandeville, and Roger has a great experience and a great reputation of building cars, and I think it's his first foray into open cockpit sports cars. But he was telling me last night he built this car and running with a Mazda engine. He's sold 2 of them, and this is the first time it's ever turned a wheel. It's here this weekend. I think it looks very pretty. He's done a good job, and if you wish to buy one, it'll cost you something slightly over $200,000.
I would say it's a testament to Mandeville's credibility in this series that a couple of buyers have already stepped up with their $1/5 of $1 million check to buy the automobiles before they ever turn their first wheel in anger. Obviously, again, we talk about the commitment to WSC. That's at least 2 more cars that are in the pipeline, and a lot of rumors that there might be a couple more manufacturers coming along. long, too, that Ferrari may not have this playing field all to their own for long, and that, of course, is what IMSA's hoping for.
Well, we're all hoping for it, because the last thing we would need is a manufacturer to dominate any class of racing, and that's exactly what happened before in the GTP, and we don't want this with Ferrari, but we must have the cars available to buy, and that is the case here. Andy Evans went out about 2 weeks ago and said, I'll buy a Ferrari, and he's now got one. I think that's very good that you can do that. The most important thing now is that we get other manufacturers in there that will be selling their chassis and their engines to people that want to buy them and go racing.
So we tiptoe along a fine line of balance here, as is the case anytime you try something new. World Sports Car Division, as we said, if you just measured it based on what happened at Daytona, one would have to say, nah, this isn't going to work. But you come here at Road Atlanta and see, 18 cars that came here, 15 that took the green, and more in the mill. It's pretty easy to believe that with this kind of equipment out there running around, that this thing could have the kind of legs that sports car racing deserves.
Yes, I think you're absolutely right. I think it will work. Let's not forget that, of course, the Ferrari, as you see there, the number 30 car, all these Ferraris are state-of-the-art. There aren't many other real state-of-the-art sports cars out there, and if you put a Chevy engine in the state-of-the-art Spice, for example, a 1994 car, I think you'll find the Chevy Spice to be right up there with the Ferraris, and no doubt about it, because they're only about a second slower than the Ferrari now. So let's not lose sight of that when we're saying Ferrari's dominated it. There aren't too many 1994 cars out there with competitive drivers and very strong engines.
But again, those cars are in the pipeline. Those cars will be coming, and that's where the challenge will be coming. Here is the number 50 car. Jay Cochran has come to the pits for his second stop. Let's go to Rick.
And this is actually a strategy stop. Remember that 10-second penalty? They've decided they want to take it early. They want to take it under a green situation. They're afraid if they took it under yellow when everybody was bunched up, they'd have to move to the back of the pack. They feel they've got a healthy enough lead over third place. They can do this now. And the problem is they simply have to go make sure they do this pit stop correctly so they don't get a penalty. Now, as soon as all the work is done, now is when they'll be assessing the penalty. They've got an IMSA official standing at the front of the car. He's holding it for 10 seconds. And then after the 10 seconds is up, that's when they'll allow these guys to go back out. He gives them the clearance sign. Jay Cochran's back out on course.
Meanwhile, just down pit road, the 2 car has come in. The Oldsmobile Spice is on pit road. This is early, Marty.
You can see they're opening up and reaching down inside, and Jeremy has turned the motor off, and this is bad news. This caught everybody by surprise. So it looks like they have got some work. We'll get back to you as soon as we can figure out. I don't think they know for sure what's going on.
First guess electrical, I guess, when they come and park the battery on the side of the automobile.
Looks distinctly like it, yeah. And that's where they put the batteries down inside the passenger compartment to balance out the weight.
That's not the black box we all think of when we talk about sophisticated electronics. Mauro Baldi now out front and alone. Cochran having made his stop. And Ross Bentley will see an opportunity here to try to overtake the second place car of Jay Cochran after Cochran stopped to take his penalty. So it appears clear that at least for the front runners, it will unfold as expected. It will be a 3-stop race for the fastest of the Ferraris out front, and perhaps the tortoise and hare strategy of the others may pay off, at least in terms of being able to finish closer. I'm not sure the difference in that one pit stop is going to make a difference in the outcome, the ultimate outcome of the winner. Marty, any more on this problem with the Oldsmobile Spice?
Yeah, we know now that it was the alternator that died first, then it drained the battery down, which then killed the electrics. Come back with me this way. Take a look at these rear tires again. This is what happened to the first set, and here's what's happened to the second set. They are blistering the tires, and these are 430s, and we've been talking about these cars not being able to generate downforce. Derek, what's the story? Just the heat of the track?
It's just something that is obviously a phenomenon we haven't had anywhere else this year, because we were running 160s at Daytona and things like that. So why the 430 is doing it, one can't imagine. It's not too much downforce, I can't imagine, but this car was very, very quick around the corners yesterday when I watched it in practice and qualifying, so maybe it's something to do with that. They get a lot of effect working. The car is gripping too well.
So good things have gone bad here. That is certainly the story of the weekend for this automobile. Jeremy Dale scheduled to start from the outside pole, but the Old Spice first spun, flat spotted the tires, started from the back, and now is plagued by a series of problems on race day. One of the challengers to the Ferrari has definitely not had much success here. Let's talk a little bit about what the weather has done here when we come back. It's a beautiful and sunny day, but that certainly is not the way the week started. We'll see what effect that might have had on the setup when we come back to Road Atlanta.
I love steak, especially a thick, juicy T-bone. A1 all over the top. Perfect. Wonderful.
I'm in the mood for something spicy. Tongue-tingling spicy. Spice just... It gets you here, and it gets you right here. I want something with gumption. Something with a peppery kick that's spicy. A1 Bold. Yeah, that's what I'm in the mood for.
Original A1 and new A1 Bold. They're how steak is done.
You have car insurance, right? Well, your engine is the most expensive part of your car. So, have you insured your engine? Right. Engine insurance, also known as T-Plus engine treatment with DuPont Teflon. Add T-Plus, and tough DuPont Teflon goes to work, relentlessly fighting heat, friction, and wear, protecting your engine for up to 50,000 miles. T-Plus engine treatment. The T is for Teflon. Tough, tenacious, tested.
Grab your sunscreen and get ready for a scorching spring, because Honda's Red Hot Deal Days are back at your local Honda dealer, and they're hotter than ever, with great deals on red hot new Hondas, along with demo rides, zero down financing on many models, free service inspections and appraisals, helmet trade-ins, free Honda hats, and a whole lot more. You better get moving. Honda's Red Hot Deal Days end April 30th. Don't let it pass you by.
We're back at Road Atlanta, the International Motorsports Association action here. Ferraris make their debut in America with the new 333 SP brilliant red automobile, and the leader now moving up to put a lap on one of the cars that looked like an early challenger. That is the Chevrolet Spice of Andy Wallace. About to be overtaken, it appears, by Mauro Baldi, who certainly had things all his way here today. Mauro Baldi's a heck of a race car driver.
Yes, he's won numerous races. I mean, he raced for Mercedes for, I think, maybe 2 years in the World Sports Car Championship. He did a wonderful, wonderful job. Very experienced, very accomplished driver, and, of course, all the major manufacturers want him. Plus, of course, he's Italian, which helps with Ferrari.
Back on board now with car number 2. This is still Jeremy Dale, I believe, at the wheel. I don't think we've seen Bob Shader as yet, as he works his way down through the dip and bottoms the car out and then back up over the hill under the bridge. Makes the dive down through turn 11 and back to the start-finish line and make that into the pits. 10th place car continuing to struggle here, and at least he'll have company in the pits, because the Stan Kleba Joseph Hamilton entry, the number 11 Mazda Tiga, is going there as well. This is certainly not scheduled for car 2. They're continuing to try to sort out an electrical and tire problem. Marty Reed.
There's definitely not enough juice in the car to run all the electric, so they're back in, going to go work on it. While you're looking at the action in the pits, I've got Bob Shader. And Bob, two things. One, you know what you can do to correct the electricals, but even more importantly, you're the next driver in, and this tire blister problem's got to have you concerned.
I'd like to find some harder tires, but it looks like we're going to be changing tires pretty frequently for the rest of the race, because we have to finish and we have to keep going.
But we haven't seen this in either of the endurance races so far this year. I mean, people were running, never had a blister problem. You're running 430s, which are...
I honestly don't have any idea what has happened to change the track conditions such that it's tearing these tires up this way. We've tested here all week. We've tested here the week before last. Never had any indication of this. We were even considering running a softer compound, and I'm just glad we didn't do that.
Not a very confident feeling for the man who has to get in next, Bob Shader, and it's a long day for the Oldsmobile team.
If there's anything you hate in the motorsports business, anything in racing that you don't like having to deal with, it's the unknown. You can deal with the problems. The unknowns are a big hassle.
Well, that's what motor racing is all about, because if it was all by the book, there wouldn't be any excitement in it. And, of course, our technicians would have life far too easy. So, you know, in these situations, these things are sent to try us. At least it's only a 2-hour race. There's a race in 2 or 3 weeks' time. We think go and come back fighting from the corner again.
This pit stop going on and on here, and I think it's pretty clear that the Old Spice Challenge is done for the day, but they'll soldier on. Points are an issue. You need all you can get at this juncture in the season. There is, in fact, a championship to be won or lost here at the end of the year, and I don't think anyone is going to concede that title to the Ferraris, because they've started late. Bob Shader and Jeremy Dale were tied for second coming in. This is the race for third spot after the penalty. Jay Cochran is back in the hunt here as he goes looking for Ross Bentley. Oh, check that.
Well, it might be new. I think it's still Vermin. I don't think they changed.
I don't think they switched.
I don't think they switched yet. No, it's still. I think it's still Vermin.
Velez, the Spaniard, under heavy pressure here now from the Ferrari as Cochran goes after him.
Off the curb, too. But Vermin isn't going to give him any leeway at all. He'll have to make his way past. If he wants to go past, he's got to find the gap, which, of course, is what it's all about. And Vermin is a very hard driver, and he doesn't want to lose his position till he has to. But you notice there that he actually lose any ground to Jay at all coming up to the hill.
See what happens if they come out onto the long straightaway here with Velez showing the way. Meanwhile, we see the leader, the fastest car on the racetrack all day, is actually the second car in your picture. That is Mauro Baldi, and he is
that is
check that is Ross Bentley.
Yeah.
Ross Bentley.
And 30 is well behind, I believe I'm right in saying, and because he's already spun, and Ross Bentley is working his way through to lap him.
Salazar lost the car right after making his pit stop, spun it and lost a lot of ground, but is now soldiering on. He having replaced Jean-Pierre Moretti, who drove pretty well for a guy with, there was some discussion whether they were bruised or broken ribs, but in any case, they were very, very sore. And so Moretti handed the car off early to Salazar, who dropped it out and spun it. So Bentley will be trying to work his way back around him.
It's very difficult for Salazar. I mean, he hasn't driven in one of these cars for many years. He hasn't driven in America, to my knowledge, for some years. And he's out there in the big time suddenly, and it's quite an experience for somebody. Plus, he gets in with a man like Moretti, who's a great campaigner, and he's got to do a hell of a job.
Salazar from Santiago, Chile, came a long way here to be part of this Ferrari debut at Road Atlanta, and the Ferraris are having a heck of a debut with Baldi leads.
It's time to catch spring fever at Napa, the place more people rely on to help them save. Like the Napa Lawn and Garden Battery, just $19.99 with exchange. Napa's 8-piece cooler combo with free Napa cap, only $18.99. And the Napa 6-piece car wash kit is now just $5.99. So spring into your nearest Napa Auto Parts store today.
Too many Ford, Dodge, and Jeep cars and trucks force Neil Pope to shred prices on 1,000 new and used vehicles. Everything marked at one low, no-hassle price. No pressure and no high prices. This week only, make no payments till next year. Yes, no payments till $19.95. Or right now, get financing as low as 2.9%. 2.9%. Plus, today, every credit application accepted. First come, first served. Rush to Neil Pope Ford, Dodge, Jeep Eagle on Buford Highway today.
Sculptures. I've read books. I've seen plays. I've read books about plays and seen plays about books. I've looked at mountains, sunsets, oceans. I've looked at the big blue sky on a very clear day. And none of it is as beautiful as this.
Back at Road Atlanta, the Grand Prix of Atlanta, the world sports cars in action. Ferrari showing the way in the debut run for the new automobile. And they are past the halfway mark with 51 minutes remaining in the action. And the number 9 car, the Chevy Spice, has gone back to the pits. Rick DeBrule.
Andy Wallace brings the car in. He's been complaining it's a little bit loose, but at this point the team says there really isn't too much they can do about it. One thing they were considering, James Weaver's car has dropped out. They were the winning team at Sebring. They thought they might put him in, but because Wallace is so much smaller, they decided that Weaver would never fit because the seat's the way it's set up. So they're just going to go ahead and leave Wallace in for the entire time. Now they're getting assessed a penalty because when the wheel changer let go of the wheel, it rolled across the track and then back. As a result, they just had a penalty. They're getting back out on the track.
Wallace returning to the fray here. We talked a bit about the weather. There was a huge difference between the conditions in which these cars practiced and qualified and the conditions in which they're racing today, Derek.
Yeah, and of course, just now we heard Bob Chader saying that they tested here only a week ago and they don't understand why. But of course, a week ago I was here testing and it was like freezing cold. And that's the difference we're seeing. And suddenly the cars are going quicker and obviously the tires have to work a lot harder. But I must admit, I can't imagine putting a 600 tire on these little cars. Because that's what we used to run on the very high downforce GTP cars.
We come with the lead automobile been a really trouble-free run for Baldy. The 3 pit stop strategy seems inevitable given what we've seen in terms of their fuel mileage. And we've seen a couple of fairly sloppy pit stops down there, so that could be key. The number 30 car is back on pit road. Salazar is in. Rick DeBrule.
Very standard pit stop for these guys. For Salazar, it's been a very interesting weekend. He only got in 18 laps before the race actually started. Didn't get a lot of actual time in. As a result, he's kind of learning the car during the course of this weekend. Everything seems to be going well with the pit stop. This time I'm keeping an eye on the IMSA official, but they don't seem to have any problems, except he stalls it trying to get out of the pits. Engine's still going. Now they've got a problem, and they're going to have to move him back, and let's see if we can figure out what the problem is. As they move him back into position, oh, the fuel hose, the fuel rig hasn't kind of undone. As a result, they're going to get the last little fuel in there, undo it, and then send him back out. They started to send him. He started to go, and then they had the problem, so they turned it around.
He was lucky to catch that, too. He could have pulled that hose right out of there. The leader, meanwhile, has come on pit road. This is Baldy in for fuel and service. Let's go back to Rick.
Fortunately, these guys aren't far apart. I was able to get here in time. Baldy is in the pits. He's trying to talk to the Italian mechanics who are over the wall. There's about 10 or 15 of them who have come here for this race from Ferrari in Italy. This is a very major event for Ferrari. As a result, they sent about 10 or 15 guys, none of whom are actually working on the car right now. This is that one crew I told you about that was assembled at the last minute. Once again, though, they seem to have done the pit stop right and sent Baldy back out.
This entire effort, of course, being fielded, at least the 2 front-running cars, by the Euro Motorsports effort. Eugenio Ferrari owns the team. They're known in IndyCar racing. Here is your leader for the first time today. Ross Bentley assumes the top spot with the exchange of pit stops. Eugenio Ferrari, no relation to the company and the name on the cars. It's merely coincidence, but they've certainly made an impact today here in sports car racing to go along with their efforts in IndyCars. As we follow down the backstretch, we ride with Ross Bentley, and he's got to be pretty pleased to have used the strategy to inherit the lead for the moment.
Yes, it's great for him, and I think it's a lovely feeling to suddenly find himself out there with P1 on the board. Obviously, he has to come in to top up with fuel as well before we're much older, so it's going to be a fairly short-lived lead, I presume. It is a great pity, of course, that Piero Lardi Ferrari isn't here, who's Mr. Ferrari's son, Enzo Ferrari's son, because he was due to come here for the race, but he has an ear infection, so he hasn't made it, which is a great pity. I remember him when he was a very young lad.
I want to explore that a bit more with you, the whole Ferrari mystique, the whole Ferrari heritage. There's so much racing history here. What is this car? Oh, we've got trouble.
Ferrari. A Ferrari.
And which Ferrari? That's the key issue. They are all red, amazingly enough. It's the 3 car, yeah. I thought that it must be. That is Bentley having spun himself right out of that lead. You said it would be short-lived. Well, I don't think that's how he planned to see it get away.
I didn't wish that on him either, but he might have been mixed up with a bit of traffic there. He might have just got being put off his line. And, of course, remember that he must be coming towards his end of his fuel, and therefore his cars might be a little bit tired. And maybe they didn't change them in the first stop. I can't remember now, but if they didn't, then they're obviously coming to the end of their life.
In any event, I think we can safely assume that he'll be going to the pit soon. Look at this, side by side. Ooh, and they almost touched. That is 2nd and 3rd place, and Jay Cochran is around Baldy, and that is a position change for 2nd and 3rd. Now, that means that Bentley was, in fact, able to pull off that off-course excursion without losing the lead, but they are breathing down his neck as he hustles down the backstretch. The car appears to be healthy. We'll see if he stays out or takes it to the pits. He was not far from his scheduled pit stop anyway. Under the bridge, and he'll make the lap. Bentley says, hey, I worked for this lead. I'm going to hang on to it despite my spin.
Absolutely. He wants another lap just to sort of vindicate himself to make sure that it wasn't a mistake. Interesting to note, of course, that Jay Cochran has now taken 2nd place, despite his 10-second penalty, which he's already absorbed.
He has overcome that penalty as the 5-car Mauro Baldi's car goes back to pit road, and is that a signal? You drove for him. You should be able to interpret that. This is all carefully planned out, right?
Yeah, but I drove in Italy. I didn't drive in America.
Oh, that's right. This would be an English signal.
I was just going to say how calm they looked in the pit stop, but they look a bit more chaotic at the moment.
Let's go to Rick DeBrule. Rick, what's up?
Well, I wish I could truly tell you what's wrong. Right now, there's an awful lot of Italian that's being spoken in this particular pit. He came in, he's talking to the Italian mechanics who are over the wall. Apparently, he's complaining about something in the rear. They've gone ahead and tried to attack the left rear tire, although they don't seem certain that that's exactly what the problem is. Now, he has shut off the engine, and they're trying to straighten it out. This is part of the problem of having a multinational team, as well as a team that was literally just thrown together in the last few days. These guys are going to have to straighten out, figure out what's wrong, and figure out if they can get them back out to win this race.
So, for Mauro Baldi, what had been a relatively trouble-free day has become very troublesome indeed. And Ross Bentley, the Canadian from Vancouver, has emerged as the leader, this despite this moment as we ride with Ross. See if you can figure out what happened.
It seemed very similar to Salazar's, although it'd be at a different corner. He just came out the corner and he just seemed to lock the rear up, and round it went and spun off the road. Yeah, but you can't go down too many gears, so I don't think it could possibly be the gearbox, because you have to go down sequentially. So you can't miss 1 or 2 gears out and go straight from 5th to 1st by mistake instead of 5th to 3rd. So who knows?
One significant difference is the speed at which the spins occurred, because Salazar spun right here, and he was supposed to get stopped on this straight track, the slowest corner out there, but Bentley spun at a pretty high-speed left-hander, and fortunately didn't damage the car. There's nothing to hit out there. One nice thing about Road Atlanta now that they've changed the racetrack. There's a lot of runoff in most places. He didn't hurt the car. He didn't lose the lead. And so he continues to show the way here as the Euro Motorsports team have suddenly hit problems. We'll be right back.
With today's historically low interest rates, you can save hundreds of dollars, whether you're buying a new home or refinancing your existing home. You could lower your monthly payments, pay off your home years ahead of schedule, or take your equity in cash. And all it takes is just one call to Loan Finders.
Loan Finders gave me personal attention, filled out the papers, and even came to my home.
Loan Finders works with dozens of financial institutions in your area to analyze hundreds of financial packages. So you get the lowest rates on the refinancing on new home loan that's exactly right for you. It's fast, easy, and it's free. And we'll even come to your home and help fill out the paperwork. So call Loan Finders now and find out how you too can save hundreds of dollars every month.
Loan Finders gave me choices I didn't know were available.
Call Loan Finders, the best way to find low rates for your home loan. Call Loan Finders now.
Imagine a game that knows your fears, fulfills your fantasies, and owns your mind. Now, imagine the game is real. Play it, Michael. Brain Scan, the ultimate head trip. Rated R. At theaters Friday.
Rogers checks the sign, and it's a deep shot to right. Can Seiko backs up? He's under it, and it bounces off his head. Bounces off his head.
Tonight, Orioles versus the Rangers.
We're back at Road Atlanta on a good news, bad news Sunday afternoon for the leading Ferraris. The good news is that they still run 1-2. The bad news is that one of the cars has gone by the wayside. Ross Bentley has just surrendered the lead to take the car to pit road. Let's go to Mark Reed.
Well, a lot of grass up into the front nose section as that is evidence of the spin that you were talking about. Driver change being made. Andy Evans will be going in. Now, they got 5 more laps than any of the other Ferraris on this last tank load of fuel. So far, the economy run is paying dividends very big for Andy Evans and Ross Bentley. This pit stop still going on. It's a little more difficult to get the drivers in and out of the Ferrari as far as strapping them out. That's one of the things I've noticed. But they have got everything in as far as fuel, tires, and waiting to get Andy cinched in. And it looks like they're trying to work maybe a little bit on that radio situation. He shakes his head and says, yep, I'm ready, let's go.
One of the guys who stepped up and said, I'll take one of those new Ferraris, gets his opportunity to drive his new car, but the car is no longer in the lead.
No, and he's about to be 1 lap down on Jay Cochran, who's just swept through Bentley as he came in the pit, but he's about to sweep past Andy Evans as Andy creeps up the hill, settling himself in with his new car. Andy, I don't think he's done that many laps during practice. Certainly didn't see him out much yesterday, but no doubt he did some on the couple of days before that. Here you see Jay Cochran's catching up Andy Evans very, very rapidly indeed to give himself a lap lead over that car.
And in all candor, I think we would have to say that Andy Evans is not going to be as quick as Ross Bentley. There is the pass. That's number 50 moves by Jay Cochran, who's quick indeed, having made up that 10-second penalty. We now ride with Andy Evans. Andy Evans is the car owner and also a decent race car driver, but he'll be a second or two off the pace, I think, with Bentley set. He would be first to admit that. But again, it takes a couple of things to make it in this game. It takes the driver talent, but it also takes the ability to field the team, and that's what Andy Evans has, and you have to admire a guy who would step up with this new and untried automobile and say, I'll take one, let's go racing. He has done that, and the car now a lap down after that lengthy pit stop to get the driver change accomplished. Some catching up to do. Now, what we have not given a great deal of attention here in this exchange of pit stops and the lead is the fact that Mauro Baldi's car has retired, or at least has gone behind the wall. They're going to do extensive repairs at least. More likely, I think, the car is done for the day, and we heard rumblings that perhaps the suspension had broken. Not yet confirmed, but that was the early indication. As Baldi brought it on pit road, you saw the hand signals, followed by the quick diagnosis. He shut the car off. It was clear to me that he had no intention of taking it back out. Long before the crew knew what the problem was, he'd had it out.
Yeah, I'm rather surprised that they haven't got radio communications in these cars. I would have thought by now that they've had time to put them in. After all, the radio people, racing radios are at the circuit. I would have thought it would have been a good idea to have these in the car, but especially with the problems with languages, I would have thought it was a very good idea to have an Italian speaking over the radio to an Italian mechanic.
As we...
Sorry.
Go ahead.
I was going to say, Jay is obviously well away now. I just hope that he uses his intelligent head today and not his young, wild head, and sort of cools down a bit now, knowing that he's got a reasonable lead and he can just take his time and run this race out. That's what he should do, then he'll be a very, very popular winner if he should do that.
You had the opportunity to follow Jay Cochran's career as he came up through the ranks. And he actually raced against your son. He's a young man with a lot of talent and, as we mentioned, the ability to put together the deal.
Yes, well, there aren't many drivers that actually have the talent and the ability to raise money as well as drive a car very well, and Jay's one of those who's done it. And it's great to see him out there pulling this sponsorship that he's got, I believe mostly from Snap-on Tools, for this season. Strange that it should be, but my son Justin Hanson just done the same and pulled the loan of sponsorship to race in the Asiatic Series. So these young guys do get at it. They realize these days they're not going to get there with sheer talent. They've got to get there by having a business brain on their shoulders.
That combination exists in the man who now is alone on the lead lap here at Road Atlanta, Jay Cochran, out front of the Eurosports Ferrari. We'll be right back.
Every time the driving conditions change, the threats to your car's engine change. Threats that can shorten its life. Corrosion, oxidation, acids. That's why today's Quaker State has engineered intelligent oil. Oil that actually senses changes in the driving environment and adapts its own molecular structure instantly. So, if the temperature changes, so does Quaker State. If the traffic congestion changes, so does Quaker State. If the terrain or altitude changes, so does Quaker State. Quaker State virtually thinks for itself to protect your engine, whatever the conditions, so your engine lasts longer. Quaker State. The intelligent oil for longer engine life.
The Honda V4 Magna. Nothing's meaner. And right now, nothing's hotter. During Honda's red-hot deal days at your participating Honda dealer. But hurry, it ends April 30th.
Well, we gearheads found a lot to like on ESPN today. You football fans will also enjoy Chris Berman, Joe Theismann, and Tom Jackson's coverage of 5.5 hours live on the 1994 NFL Draft. Live reports from Dallas, New England, Indy, San Francisco, Minnesota, Tampa Bay, Philadelphia, Arizona, Jacksonville, and Charlotte. The War Room Cam will be back in as many as 6 teams' draft rooms to give you the inside look at the decisions and the reactions. And it's all yours on ESPN. Meanwhile, here at Road Atlanta, the battle continues as Jay Cochran leads the way, and Antonio Ferrari's Euro Motorsports entry. No connection with the Ferrari name on the car. No blood relationship, that is to say. The second place automobile now a lap down. Andy Evans, the car owner, having taken the wheel from Ross Bentley. A combination of a spin and a long pit stop would drop them a lap off the pace, but in second spot and hoping for a Ferrari sweep here today. The third place automobile, the first non-Ferrari, and I guess that would make it the winner of his class today, is the yellow Chevrolet Spice, car number 9, Andy Wallace. And Andy's beginning to reel in that second place driver at a fairly healthy clip. Certainly has the bit in his teeth now and is hoping to pull off a runner-up finish and at least split those Ferraris, perhaps even find his way to the leader, although he hasn't shown to do that thus far. Jay Cochran had to overcome a 10-second penalty. The good news for Ferrari is that the second of the Euro Motorsports team cars is back on course. Mauro Baldi having satisfied himself that whatever was wrong with the car has been fixed, and he's back at pretty competitive pace.
Albeit, probably a lap or two or so behind.
Oh, yeah, far off. The competitive pace in terms of lap time, certainly not in the hunt anymore because it was an extended stop. They took the car behind the wall to make the repairs. We had speculated that perhaps they were going to drop out, and in fact had begun to wonder during the commercial break if it might be a contagious problem, something that could further afflict the 50 car of Cochran as well. But whatever the problem was has been fixed, and they are back into the battle. So Ferrari continues to have a very impressive debut here with this new automobile. Andy Evans is out there right now having a great opportunity to play with his new car. Let's find out more about the fuel strategy on this car as we go to Marty Reed.
Andy Evans and Ross Bentley think they can make this race from here on out. They've only made 2 pit stops. Everybody else has had to make 3. And the Ferraris look like they're going to be making another one. Is that the leader coming in at the other end?
Indeed it is. The number 50 car of Jay Cochran is on pit road for the third, should be final, fuel stop. Let's go to Rick DeBrule.
They intend to make this a leisurely stop. If that's the possible case, what they're going to do is go ahead and fuel it up, let him go back out. They're a little concerned that he may have a potential for the same problem that affected the number 5 car. It was simply something that was loose on the left rear axle. All they did was tighten it back up to send Baldi out. As a result, they want him to run a little bit softer. He's got almost a full lap lead. So once they send him back out after refueling here, they've told him to back off on the revs a little bit, take it easy, make sure that there's no particular problem. Don't push it any more than he has to. But at this point, he seems to have everything in control. It's just a question, make sure it does it right.
And here they come into turn 1 as Andy Evans gives up that spot to Andy Wallace. The English driver flashing by in the yellow Chevy Spice. They have gained a lap back on that pit stop, and it was pretty effective. We saw that coming from a long way back, and again, we refer back to the lap times of which Andy Evans is capable. Certainly Andy Wallace was not going to wait for it.
Got Andy Wallace. Yeah, but he just overtook him in the pit stop, didn't he? He's right behind him now. They must be in the lead. I can see there's the 3 Ferraris right there. So I would have thought, no, there's Baldi. Behind him is the Momo car, so maybe we have not got a new leader yet.
I think they simply have unlapped themselves because 50 had the full lap lead when he came in to make his pit stop. So they did take their time on the stop, but they didn't take that much time. They lost the lap advantage, but the second and third place drivers have only managed to unlap themselves and still have a long way to go back. Now, Salazar continues to impress in the number 30 car here. He's hustling around here pretty good as we watch Andy Evans give up the position to him on track. But again, Salazar is also a lap down. Fast man in this group is Andy Wallace. Let's see if he can hold off Salazar. Cars continuing to hustle around here, approaching that checkered flag. The 2-hour contest at Road Atlanta, marking the on-course debut for the Ferrari. It was on display at Sebring, but did not race in the 12-hour, and there was a lot of talk about that. Gearbox problems in testing were the official reason given for the car not making its debut at that very difficult racetrack. They have chosen instead Road Atlanta. They have dominated the competition, but Andy Wallace is now on the same lap with the leader.
Polish a whole car in about half the time with new Turtle Wax Instant Foam and Shine, the first foaming car polish. It's so much easier. With ordinary polish, you have to wipe, wait, and rub. With new Instant Foam and Shine, you just foam and shine. A mirror-like shine with long-lasting Turtle Wax protection. It's never been easier or faster. So why wait? Polish your car in about half the time with new Turtle Wax Instant Foam and Shine.
Grab your sunscreen and get ready for a scorching spring because Honda's Red Hot Deal Days are back at your local Honda dealer, and they're hotter than ever with great deals on red hot new Hondas, along with demo rides, zero-down financing on many models, free service inspections and appraisals, helmet trade-ins, free Honda hats, and a whole lot more. You better get moving. Honda's Red Hot Deal Days end April 30th. Don't let it pass you by.
My Sports Center highlight goes like this. I bring it up, and I'm losing everyone, except Robin Roberts. I should pass it to a big man, but they always get it, so I take it in. It's me against the Giants, and I jam it over them. And afterwards, I flash the little people our #1 hand signal while they play my song. Yeah, that's my Sports Center highlight.
We're back at Road Atlanta, where Jay Cochran continues to enjoy a field day, albeit now on the same lap. Correct that. He has regained his full lap. He has a full lap advantage. He is on a lap by himself as he hustles through the uphill turn 1 at Road Atlanta. And the second-place car is now the number 30 of Salazar, the Chilean driver who has had one off-course excursion, one extended pit stop, but nonetheless hangs on to the number 2 spot. For Cochran, it has been a trouble-free race, but for his teammate, that car went to the sidelines. It made an extended stop earlier. Mauro Baldi didn't like the way it was behaving. He has now parked it for good, and he's with Rick DeBrule.
Mauro Baldi, you brought it in once, sent it back out, and finally had to retire it for good. What was wrong?
We had a problem with the brakes, and so there was a bad feeling, and I think the main problem was from the rear brakes, and there was no solution.
You have put in more than 600 miles of testing on this car. You've been the lead Ferrari tester for this particular car. Has a problem ever cropped up before during all the testing?
Never. But we don't have to forget that we never made 2 hours in a row. So maybe today is very hot, and maybe I don't know what happened, but we have to check.
But when it was running well.
Of course, yes. I was leading.
Mauro Baldi, happy to be leading.
As if to say, of course, I was leading. Mauro Baldi of Monte Carlo. Now, as we pick up the action on the racetrack, let's clarify this lap situation. In reality, Jay Cochran is not quite on a lap by himself, but he's about to try to get there. He is reeling in Salazar, who is nearly the length of a lap. There's the difference right there. He's on the tail end of the lead lap, and will Cochran run up there and make a challenge on him? Without a doubt. You say absolutely, eh? I don't know if I'd want to get up alongside old Alessio Salazar the way we saw him on the onboard camera going down through this very section of racetrack a few laps ago, because he appeared to be quite enthusiastic about hanging on to his position. That's right. Salazar in second spot. This is just so tricky. I mean, this is a real tough section of racetrack. Down through the bottom.
Somebody going very slowly on the left-hand side. They're not a nice place at all.
Blind coming into the dip. Blind coming under the bridge. Now at least you can see where you're going. And what you see is all new pavement. Terrific racing surface. Here's the retirement for the number 45 car. I believe that was the rolling chicane down there.
Yeah, that was Lee Miller, Lance Stewart, or Paul DeMann. We're not sure who that was driving it at that point.
He's pulled off just past the the bottom of the dip. You can see it right over the rear wing of the car, and here you can see the car slamming down into it as they come through in traffic. We understand that is Lee Miller. Yeah, it looks like Lee climbing out there. End of the day comes early for his team. Don't forget the radio cord, Lee.
The other end.
There you go.
I just hope it's far enough out of the way they'd have to bring a yellow out.
Two-car has come back on pit road. Jeremy Dale and Bob Shader sharing the driving responsibilities. Marty Reed.
Well, this is one of those days where you wish it would just end. They'll pick up another position on the retirement of Lee Miller and the 45 car, but Bob Shader at the Oldsmobile Spice just getting some gas, and he's back out to finish it off.
Press on regardless, as the rally drivers say, the point being points. The championship at stake. Wayne Taylor and Jim Downing actually led the point standings coming in here as a result of their combined efforts in what is often called the 36 hours of Florida, the combination of 24 hours at Daytona, 12 hours in Sebring. They've been a bit downfield here today, but Shader and Dale were second ranked coming in, with Mel Grotti in the next position back, and this is the car that, let's go to Rick Rule for a report on Salazar.
Salazar has brought the car in for what should be the final pit stop for this team. They don't actually need a full load of fuel, but they've decided they're going to play it safe. They're going to go ahead and put in the full load so they don't have any problems later on. Everything at this point seems to be going fairly well. They, as a result, the car is new. It's taken them a little while to get used to it this weekend, but now, as the other Ferrari team has done, they seem to have gotten it understood. Wait a minute, they're having a problem on the left side. They're getting a penalty. Apparently, the visor was up on the fueler. If we look over here, you can see the fueler. See his helmet? His visor is up. As a result, they had to penalize in 10 seconds, and that's why he had to delay going back out.
And in the process, the yellow 9 car, the Chevy Spice, takes over the second spot. The leader is now on a lap by himself, but car number 9, Andy Wallace, has just taken over the second spot by virtue of that pit stop penalty. Actually, I think it would have been close with or without the penalty. We could have had a pretty good tussle for second spot were it not for the penalty. The fuel, the man putting the fuel in the car actually has to have that safety visor down, and that's a rule worth enforcing on pit road. Keeps in mind the need for safety first. Meanwhile, up front, Jay Cochran continues to lead, now all alone on the lead lap. And the only opposition for him is the possibility of attrition. We'll be right back.
They say money will buy more in the new millennium. They say luxury will endure in the new millennium. They even say a car that competes with Lexus and Mercedes can be priced from $26,000 when you're not asked to pay for a luxury division and all that overhead. At your local Mazda dealer now.
The Atlanta Athletic Club, one of the most serene sporting venues in the city. That all changes April 23rd through May 1st with the return of the AT&T Challenge. Lightning fast action from the world's greatest tennis players. Andre Agassi, Michael Chang, Todd Martin, Malavia Washington, and Jimmy Connors in his last ATP Tour event in Atlanta. For tickets, call Ticketmaster at 249-6400. The AT&T Challenge, sponsored by Pepsi and Lexus. Don't miss it.
If there is one thing I can stand, it's a Long Island accent.
We're back at Road Atlanta. Dave Despain with the 1982 Road Atlanta pole sitter Derek Bell alongside as we watch Ferrari's debut in the capable hands of Jay Cochran of Palm Beach, Florida. The new 333 SP. This should be a position battle. That is for third place. That is Elio Salazar working his way around Andy Evans and taking over third spot. And that's been, Andy Evans has been in and out of those positions largely as a result of the pit stops here. And did I hear a report that perhaps there is a problem with that car, the braking department?
Yes, you certainly overheard that, and he certainly isn't very happy. He's not exactly overdoing it, and I don't blame him at the moment. But the interesting thing now is whether Salazar will catch Andy Wallace in the Auto Toy Store Chevy Spice, because obviously there wasn't too much gap between Andy Evans and Andy Wallace at that point. So with only about 10 minutes to go, it's going to be quite a close thing for second place, I fear.
Let's find out more about the brake problem from Marty Reed.
Well, it's probably a good thing Andy Evans is the car owner. How'd you like to invest $950,000 with all the spares and everything that goes with it and find out you're running out of brakes? And that's exactly what the problem is for Andy Evans. He's got to pump the pedal, and it is fading and fading fast. And we were wondering at first why his lap times weren't doing so well, but that is the reason why.
There are a couple of places on this circuit where you don't want to be without brakes. I would think coming to the bridge, he's probably back shifting very early and very carefully. And so Salazar has moved back into third spot. Can he catch and take over the second spot? Well, that'll remain to be seen. But Andy Wallace has driven a terrific race here today, the Chevy Spice. So conceivably, two Ferraris in the top three. And we'll be checking that interval to see how that second place battle is going to shape up. Here is Andy Wallace, the car that Derek Bell co-drove at Sebring, and here is the 30 car of Salazar. So it's not much of an interval at all, and it'll all come down to those increments of seconds as the laps tick away here down toward the 2-hour mark at the conclusion of this debut of the Ferrari World Sports Car here at Road Atlantic. Want to put down a quick $5 on who's going to get that second spot?
No, right now, no. I think Andy's got his work cut out right now. Andy Wallace, that is. He's struggling. He's had 2 hard hours in the cockpit. Salazar's relatively fresh, and of course, Andy's a small little fellow, and I would have thought his endurance wasn't that good, but he did some wonderful drives in the Toyotas and the Jags over the years, so one can't put it down to that, but he's got his work cut out right now, because you see Salazar literally gobbling him up there.
Well, of course, the reason that he's so exhausted having had to run this entire 2-hour stint is because you wouldn't help him out and co-drive the car here, choosing instead to sit here in plush air-conditioned comfort with me and call the race, which I appreciate, although I'm not sure Andy does.
No, I love your company, Dave. It's great to be with you.
But what you really didn't want to do was get out and drive that thing on a hot day like today, right? Because you guys struggled with it in Sebring, as we discussed earlier. Salazar is coming after him, and he's a sitting duck, isn't he?
Yeah, I'm afraid he is. Yeah, he's just eating him up inch by inch. Of course, what you don't know, of course, is whether Wallace has got a minor problem as well, because he actually isn't. You know, in practice, he was quicker than Salazar. He qualified in a 14, and I would have thought, you know, could be mastering the conditions, but obviously he's losing time somewhere. Whether it's fatigue or just the fact that he doesn't push it anymore because the car is giving up on him, or he's got a misfire or something, one doesn't know. It looks like he's going to lose the lead right here.
The easy pass for second spot, so the Ferraris are back at 1-2, and Andy Wallace with the Chevy Spice had no retaliation. You can see that one coming a long way away. And again, lap times at the end of the race, tough to maintain, but Salazar, the pressure of the 2 drivers, and with a car that has been more recently serviced, is in better position here, and quite potentially the Ferrari sweep of the top 2 spots. Jay Cochran, the leader on that lap all by himself, so there is certainly no drama there.
Like Andy Wallace's Spice that's 8 years old. I think ours were a lot better 8 years ago as well, weren't you, Dave?
I'll buy that. And it makes a good point. The Spice chassis can be updated. It's a component kind of car. You can buy pieces of the update, or you can buy, you can't get to a complete new Spice yet, but that's supposed to be coming somewhere down the road. But this is, in fact, car 001, the very first one that came here and raced the series, built back in 1987. And I'd say it's doing pretty well for an 8-year-old model against the latest technology the Italians have to offer. That Italian technology runs up front. Approach the checkered flag.
I love steak, especially a thick, juicy T-bone. A1 all over the top. Perfect. Wonderful. I'm in the mood for something spicy. Tongue-tingling spicy. Spice is just... They get you here, and it gets you right here. I want something with gumption. Something with a peppery kick that's spicy. A1 Bold. Yeah, that's what I'm in the mood for.
Original A1 and new A1 Bold. They're how steak is done.
Or you can put in Schlegg locks, the Doberman of locks.
The end is near at Road Atlanta. Ferrari looking for the checkered flag in their return to prototype sports car racing. Coming up next on Sports Center, Knicks and Hornets highlights, Islanders and Rangers. Have you heard Seth Joyner going to the Phoenix Cardinals to rejoin his teammate, his former teammate Clyde Simmons? You hadn't heard that? Well, we'll find out about it next, right after the checkered flag at the finish of the race. Low lights, highlights and low lights. Bob Shader and Jeremy Dale's number 2 Oldsmobile Spice has retired. Couldn't quite limp up over the hill and then coast to the pits, and thus will finish its race out there on the left side of that backstretch. Jay Cochran. Whoa! Now that's the kind of thing that can mess up your whole day. You make it an hour and 55 minutes into the race and then get clipped by a lapper.
Well, Jay's been waiting for this for the whole of his life, so to have it actually be clipped at that point, it's shown him that he wasn't very happy about that move, weaving across the front of him. But that would have been very unfortunate, but then, you know, experience paid off, and he backed out of it thinking, I don't know who this guy is, so I'm not going to give him a chance to take me out. And he's got time on his hands anyway.
Yeah, he does indeed. It's fortunate to be in a situation of being up by a lap. You have the opportunity to take your time working your way through that traffic, and so as Cochran comes down to put another lap in the book, he has dodged that bullet, and it'll take him a couple of more laps to get to the checker with about 2:40 remaining in the race here today. Ferrari's history dating back so deep into the annals of motorsport. So many of the great drivers, including yourself, who have driven here. Tell me a bit about the technology in this car. It has been described as a Formula One car with a sports car body. Is that a bit of hype?
No, I think it's fairly real. Tony Southgate did a lot of the work. An Englishman, he did a lot of work on this particular project, but I know the car, if you looked at it with a bodywork off, you say, well, it's just a Ferrari Formula One monocoque, and it's just made a bit wider to bring it up to sports car specification. Obviously, aerodynamically, they've had to do a tremendous amount of work because it's about 4 times 5 times as much body on that car as there is a Grand Prix car. So they've done a lot of work, and I'm very pleasantly surprised to see just how well it's run. When you consider it didn't turn a wheel really till the 1st of January, something like that. And they destroyed one in testing, and here they are coming back. They've obviously done a lot of work in Mugello as well as Fiorano, and you think about it, they've got a brand new chassis, brand new engine, and the sequential gearbox, and it's all working. And there's yet, for Jay Cochran and some of the other Ferrari drivers, they're still out there running around. I think it's a wonderful accolade for Ferrari to actually achieve this first time.
Well, to build this customer car, I mean, consider the case of Andy Evans, a guy who at literally the last minute buys this automobile, brings it here untried and untested, and he currently has the car in 5th spot, down from 4th. He's lost another position, but nonetheless, to have a top 5 finish the first time out with a brand new car indicates, I guess, that it was money well spent.
Exactly.
Of course, all of the American marketing that goes with this car, I think, is good for American motorsports.
Of course it is, yeah. They did it. And of course, you know, let's forget that Giampiero Moretti went out and bought a car as well, and we see it now. And, of course, he got Eliezer Salazar to drive with him, who bought a sponsor with him, and they're doing incredibly well for the first time out as well. They didn't do much practice because of the wet weather we've had this last week. So, all in all, I think it's the most remarkable outing.
Second place car here is 3rd as Andy Wallace had to watch that Ferrari disappear over the hill. Couldn't maintain the pace with the Italian automobile in the waning laps of the race, and so it looks like the Chevy Spice will settle for a 3rd place finish here today, and he'll be almost another lap down because Jay Cochran is closing in on him here in the late laps. This will probably be the beginning of the last lap of the race. They run a full 2 hours. It's clock time. There's the white flag indicating 1 lap to go, 1 final tour of the circuit for Jay Cochran, who certainly made a good deal for himself, I think, in setting his course for sports car racing for 1994. This is a young man who has a great future and will probably drive and have success in a lot of different series before he's finished.
Absolutely. The young lads at this age, all they need is this opportunity, a real break like this. Hard work, gone out, got the money, got himself a great drive. He could have also got himself a bad drive, and that could have been a failure as well. So here he is, he's used his brain, picked up a car that he has been convinced would go out and win races. And there he is, winning his first, I think, major international race. And I think it's great for him because after all these years, for a Ferrari to go out and win and for a young American to be at the wheel is quite something. It wouldn't have been quite the same impact if Baldi had won. So I think for Jay to be in there is wonderful.
He is about to take the checkered flag, his final tour down the back stretch, and it's a commentary perhaps on the enthusiasm of the Tifosi, to whom we referred at the top of the hour, that this young man will be a household name in Italy by tomorrow morning, having carried this car to victory. This car carried him to victory. The checkered flag falls. Jay Cochran, the driver, and the Ferrari 333 SP successful in its debut voyage here at Road Atlanta. The World Sports Car category of IMSA is alive and well. We'll take a quick break and come back to hear from the winners. Stay with us as we wrap it up.
Back when baseball truly was the national pastime, ball players were heroes and great teams legendary. Now, Sports Illustrated brings you remarkable home movie footage of baseball's glory days in the award-winning 2-video set, When It Was a Game. And best of all, both videos are free with your paid subscription to Sports Illustrated. When It Was a Game features never-before-seen home movie footage shot by the players themselves, bringing the ghosts of baseball's past to life. There's Gehrig and the Babe, Williams and DiMaggio, Ebbets Field, Fenway Park, and it's all in spectacular color. Call now and get both of these award-winning videos, along with 54 issues of Sports Illustrated, including the swimsuit issue for only $1.47 an issue. Save over 50% off the cover price. For quicker delivery, use your credit card. There's nothing like the magic of When It Was a Game. And there's nothing in the world like Sports Illustrated. Get into it.
World coverage of IMSA's Exxon Grand Prix of Atlanta, brought to you by Exxon 93 Supreme Gasoline. For high performance, rely on the Tiger. And by Quaker State, the intelligent oil for longer engine life. And by Honda Motorcycles. Come in for red hot deal days through April 30th. Honda, come ride with us. Well, it is over. I don't speak Italian, but I think it goes something like Vini Vidi Vici. He came, he saw, he conquered. Ferrari have come and conquered Road Atlanta, the maiden voyage for the new car. Very impressive indeed, but no more impressive, I don't think, than the performance of the guy who drove the winning car. Here's Marty Reed with Jay Cochran.
Jay Cochran, this is one of those weekends that went from spectacularly awful to awfully spectacular. I mean, Friday in the rain, first time you ever sat in the car. Then you ended up dinging it once, clipping a wing in pit lane. I mean, and then to come back and win the first time out, you got to be just ecstatic.
Yes, I'm very happy. The snap-on edge at Ferrari did a wonderful job. The team was great. Track was great. It was, I can't even tell you how happy I am. I mean, this is incredible.
A little family lineage here. If I'm not mistaken, your father drove a Ferrari back in the late 50s for Luigi Canetti, and didn't he call him a taxi driver?
Yeah, I think he'd be proud. He's up there in the race car in the sky right now. I hope he's happy.
Well, you were a pretty good taxi driver yourself today. Congratulations. Victory #1, World Sports Car.
Thank you. It was great.
Terry, you co-drove with this young man a couple of years ago, as I recall. He's a good one, eh?
Yes, he's really outstanding, and I'm delighted to think a young man like that has actually made his name at last and proved to all the people who have been critical of his ability that he is a world-class driver, and he certainly proved it to me and a lot of others today.
Cochran will pilot that Ferrari throughout this '94 season. Salazar second in another Ferrari. Andy Wallace brought the Chevy Spice home third and worked hard for it. Let's hear from him as we go back to Victory Lane and Rick DeBrule.
Well, Andy Wallace, you tried your best to be the giant killer today, but just wasn't enough in it there at the end.
Well, I had a really good start, and I thought I was going to stay with the Ferraris for a while. What a joke, huh? They just disappeared, particularly in straight line speed, I think. Then I just drove the car as hard as I could. We used a bit more fuel than I thought we would, so we had to make 3 stops. But I had a lot of fun, and I drove as fast as I can, and I guess that's where we finished.
And you get a nice, cool finish from your team owner, Morris Shirazi.
One thing about that team, they always have fun. I know how much you enjoy driving for them down at Sebring. We've seen them now. The Ferraris have been on the racetrack. They've won impressively. Some expected that. I wonder if as we take a look at the results here, I wonder if there were any surprises in this for you, Derek Bell.
Not really, no. I think the fact that one fell out is fairly just. I think, you can't expect to turn up with 4 brand new cars and have them finish in the top 4 positions. But I think it was great. It was good to see a private team right up there with a Ferrari. And, of course, it was wonderful to just see them go out, these beautiful red Scarlet machines, and prove to the world that we have world-class racing again in IMSA.
And they'll be bringing the fans back, I'm sure, in numbers like we see here at Road Atlanta, because truly it is a magic name in sports car racing. and that name today is at the top of the list. Ferrari have won in their maiden voyage. They have swept the top 2 spots here in the Exxon Grand Prix of Atlanta. That pretty well wraps up the story from here. Sports Center is next. The Knicks and the Hornets highlights, along with the Islanders and the Ranger highlights. The complete Seth Joyner story is yours right after this. And then later tonight, Sunday Night Baseball, 8 o'clock Eastern time, has the Orioles versus the Rangers. So stay tuned for that as well. It's been a great day of motorsports here on ESPN. Always a pleasure to join Derek Bell at the racetrack, and a special pleasure today to have the opportunity to share the booth. Derek, thank you very much. Have a good trip home. That is the story from Road Atlanta. Ferrari has won with Jay Cochran at the wheel. Our pleasure to bring it to you here on ESPN. I'm Dave Despain saying so long, everyone.